Kosmium is up on Kickstarter right now, and we're going to give you a little preview of it. You can see it here before us. It's a space-themed game in which you're going to be attempting to build space highways of a sort across the skies that connect to various planets or other celestial bodies of that ilk.
Yeah, you're each different companies, and you're trying to build your highway, so to speak, first before everyone else does.
Yeah.
You each get a different color, and each color has a very specific route that they want to connect to, because everyone's very picky.
Right, so depending on what your card is, it'll tell you which 3 bodies you want to connect to. For instance, I'm yellow, so I've got Pluto, Earth, and Oberon.
Yes, on the board they do match with the colors too, so you can just look on the board and see the 3 yellow spots, or in my case, the 3 green spots.
Right, so it's not hidden, it's all open information. You're always going to know who's trying to do what. And basically the way it works, it's pretty simple. You don't actually move your ship in this part. You actually move around the sides of the board. And when you're in a space station, you can then choose to purchase these white highway pieces.
These are called common pieces.
Right.
Common road pieces.
You also have your own yellow or whatever color you are ones that we'll get into in a bit. And you can place 2 per turn. They cost a certain amount of minerals, which is your currency. And you can place them connecting to your thing, like so, in any direction that you desire.
The only caveat is you cannot have more than 4 common road spaces for your route touching, which you have to divide them with your special ones. To do so, let's take the pieces you played right now. You choose a planet, you pay the credits on the planet, and you actually place your pieces so that they touch the road and go wherever you want to go next.
Right. So, and the thing is, other people can actually use your common roads as part of their goal, but these are just for you, and you're going to need to use them. You're not going to be able to have enough pieces to connect without your special, unique pieces. You can, if you're in an emergency, need to change your plans, recall these and put them somewhere else if you need to, but that would be probably expensive, and you don't really want to have to do that. And yeah, it's whoever gets their route first, the game ends, then you see how many points you can get. There's also things...
There are plenty of ways to actually help you on that route. For example, the cube I took off, these are special cubes that you can either use to sell or to purchase other things.
They could also be worth points at the end of the game, potentially. And then the other thing you can do on your turn, if you don't want to build, maybe you want to move, because like we said, you can't build if you're not in the place, and you might not be in the place you want to be. So if you want to move, you draw one of these cards, and you're going to see numbers with different colors surrounding them. Look for the one with your color, so let's say for me it'd be 4. And I would say to the person behind me, which in this case would be you,
right?
Hey, can I move 4 spaces? And you would tell them which direction you wanted to go in. Or actually you don't, you always move clockwise.
Clockwise.
Right.
But you say, I would like to, you bluff, or possibly
you can,
bluff.
If you don't like the number, you can say, I'm gonna move 6. And then you could call me on it or let me do it.
Right. Now, if I call him on it and he's right, and he actually gave me the number on the card, I have to pay him for wherever space he would land on. However, if I was right on calling him out, he has to pay not only the bank, but me for whatever space he lands on, even if it's a positive.
Right. So it's a gamble sometimes, depending on what you do or don't want people to do.
Depending also on how much money they have, you can try to be more risky if they don't think they're worth it. So it's a really sort of fun little movie mechanic. Be like, like if I said 4, for example, and that would be -10, you could be like, does he really want to be on that space? Or,
right. That's because basically wherever you land, if you land on this 20, you get 20 minerals. If you land down here, you have to pay 10 minerals. So yeah, sometimes you have to decide what's the better move for me. These cards also have powers.
Right. So even after you do your bluffing, you get to keep in your hand.
Yeah, and you can use them in usually they'll tell you which phase you can use them in.
Right. They have a variety of effects from, I believe that one's just...
This one makes putting your roads through planets cheaper.
Right. There's one that lets you steal from someone.
Right. There's ones that will let you like make up any number for your bluff, and even if it's not the real number, you can't get caught on it, for instance. You also do have these shields, which are worth a point if you keep them, or you can use it to counter a successful bluff.
But do you give it to the...
Yeah, if you use that, you actually give it to the opponent, so you're actually trading a point for that move. So another strategic layer there. So there's a lot going on in this game. It definitely has elements of Ticket to Ride or Catan, at least at first glance. That's what it reminded us of with the building your roads. But it plays pretty differently than those.
It does, and I think because the cards are almost if you look at the top of the number roll, it's almost like a dice roll. But unlike a lot of games where we see moving around the board, which is usually considered probably one of the most basic board elements, I think they do it in a much more interesting way because it's not really, here's a 4, you're moving 4. It's, here's a 4, do you want to move 4? And there's much more thinking about bluffing. Not only that, there's sometimes, like, let's say I was more like here, and we have more people playing. I might not want to pass you because I want either I do or don't want you to be asking me questions and stuff. So there's actually a lot more interest in that kind of movement as well.
No, that's definitely true. It takes the idea of just moving in a straight circle and actually makes it pretty somewhat complicated. The bluffing aspect is a huge, it's almost, you would call this a bluffing game because you're going to be doing that on a lot of your turns. You're either bluffing or you're building. So it has, it's a strategy game, but it also has that somewhat of a psychological party game kind of aspect to it in that regard, at least. Yeah, I definitely think with more people it is better because there's, first of all, there's just,
I mean, we played it with more people.
yeah, there's more going on, and
it makes the building a lot more interesting too.
Right.
Because if I recall when we did it, you actually took advantage of Neil. Like, we were able to build just a little bit faster, so you got not only some of his roads, but he was forced to take a really expensive spot.
Right. Yeah. It's not nearly as punishing as Ticket Ride, I don't think, because it's harder to like steal people's routes. But it is possible to make life a little trickier for them if you do stuff like that. And also with more players, there's more routes to potentially build off of and more options you can take. So there's a lot going on. You also have these little things we didn't talk about, which you can buy, which are kind of like ship upgrades.
They're more permanent when the cards are. I think almost all of them are one time.
Yeah, most of the cards are one-time use.
I can't remember if they're any permanent.
Some of them stay out in front of you for a while, but then I think they go away.
Once they happen, they happen.
Yeah, these are permanent upgrades, unless you can have 3 at a time, and they can help you win the game also. And it's not just first person to complete their route, because
that ends the game.
Right.
Like many other games. Then you total up your points, and there could be ways. Like, I think you won also because you had both. You both ended the route, and you had a bunch of things. Like, you had something that gave you extra points for the more of these cubes you had at the end.
Yeah,
so you really had a nice big bonus.
There's a good amount of variation in that regard, for sure. Yeah, it's a pretty cool game. It's definitely a unique take on this genre. Like, it kind of combines bluffing game with road building and a space theme, and it's not. And that's not too heavy either. You're really basically doing one of 2 things on your turn. And once you get that aspect down, it moves pretty fast.
But what's nice about that is you're absolutely right. It has that nice little sort of light play, but it wasn't too much so that we're like, all right, just move and I'm done. There is, because you're actually thinking about bluffing. There's a pause like, all right, I'm going to pause no matter what.
Right.
And then give the answer. It'd be 6, which I thought was a really fun.
There's a lot of good stuff. So we had a lot of fun with Kosmium. It's on Kickstarter right now, and for, if I recall correctly, but I won't say, I'm pretty sure it was a very reasonable price with actually much upgraded and nicer looking components than you can see here. So check all that out.
Yes, of course, this is a prototype we should mention.
Yes, absolutely. So if you liked what you saw, if this sounds like the kind of game you would have fun with, go ahead, check it out, and back it. We recommend it. Hope you had fun with this preview. Until next time, I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Mo Keeler, and this has been a Roll for Crit preview.